We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please hit the subscribe button, smash our like button, share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this channel, this Rebel Outpost college football channel with a donation. Hit the $sign where you make a comment and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. We are going to attempt to cover the live stream Florida State Board of Trustees as they give the okay to this ACC settlement. Earlier today, the first step has already been completed. Pete Thamel, sources. The ACC Board of Directors has voted to agree to changes in the financial distribution model buyout clarity for the league that makes a key step in the lawsuits brought by Clemson and Florida State being dropped. This is the first of three expected steps today. The first one, the ACC one, has been completed. Now we're waiting for the Board of Trustees meeting to begin. I don't think it has, or at least on my computer, it hasn't. I think we're a minute away. No, it has
Thank you, ma'am.
started. Hold on, everybody.
think,
Hold on.
I think there's a lot of people here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Good morning and welcome to the Florida State University Board of Trustees meeting. Thank you all for being here with us today. I'm going to now ask Carolyn Egan to please call the roll.
How is the volume?
Trustee Alvarez?
Let me know the volume. Is it
Trustee
okay?
Ballard?
There's not much more I can do on it, though.
Trustee Birmingham? Trustee Bovair?
Here.
Chair Collins?
Here.
Vice Chair De Las
Good.
Cuevas Diaz?
I'm glad because
Trustee Gonzalez?
Here.
I don't
Trustee
know how
Henderson?
to adjust it any better than
Trustee
what I got.
Jones? He may join us in a few moments. He was coming from
Now,
another meeting, but we'll
I'm
watch
gonna
his
shut
attendance
up
if
when they
he's able
start
to
talking
join.
here. You
Trustee
see,
Brock?
Collins is on the left side,
Trustee
right here, the
Sargent?
chairman of the board. When
Trustee
we
Thiel?
get done with this board of trustees, details
I
are
understand
coming
he was
out
planning
on this
to attend, so if he
ACC
joins
settlement,
us, we'll
and it
note
is
that in the
giving
record
me
as well.
more
Trustee Wilford?
questions.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank
About
you,
the
Carolyn.
stability
I'll begin
of
our
the
meeting with a reminder to board
ACC.
members about
There
ethics
is
policy
some
and obligations
juicy
imposed
stuff
by
coming
the
out. We're going
policy
to
of
talk
Florida
about
law.
it after the
Trustees
board
are
of
public
trustees.
officers
Let's
of the
take
state
a
of
listen.
Florida who are invested with the public trust and appointed as fiduciaries of the university. The Board of Trustees ethics policy that governs our conduct requires us to disclose any conflicts of interest present for any trustee, trustee's family member, or trustee's business associates, as those terms are defined by the policy. Having reviewed the agenda for today's meeting and having had the opportunity to consult with general counsel and the ethics officer about any potential actual or perceived conflict, does any trustee wish to disclose any matter that may impact his or her ability to discuss or vote on any agenda item? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any. We're good. Next, we will hear public comments. I'd like to remind everyone to please limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes to give all those interested an opportunity to speak. Do we have anyone wishing to speak today?
We have no one wishing to speak on public comment.
Okay. Our first agenda item is going to be brought forward by General Counsel Egan. General Counsel Egan.
Sure. Before I get started, I would like to note that I see that Trustee Thiel and Trustee Jones have joined us, so all trustees are present.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, following our agenda, I would like to notify the board that pursuant to section 286.011 subsection 8 Florida statutes, that I, as the board's counsel, would like to have a session concerning the litigation and matters of Florida State University versus Atlantic Coast Conference, Leon County case number 2023 CA 002860, and ACC versus Florida State University Board of Trustees, currently pending in Mecklenburg County, case number 23CV 0409-18590.
Okay. In accordance with section 286.011 subsection 8, I certify that a closed attorney-client session shall commence with the following persons in attendance. Myself, Peter Collins, Vivian De Las Cuevas Diaz, our vice chair, trustee Maximo Alvarez, trustee Ballard, trustee Jackson Mover, trustee Bridget Birmingham, trustee George Gonzalez, trustee Jim Henderson, trustee Peter Jones, trustee Justin Roth, trustee Deborah Sargent, trustee John Thiel, and trustee Drew Weatherford, as well as President Richard McCullough as the chief executive officer of Florida State University, attorneys for FSU Carolyn Egan,
Weatherford,
David Ashburn, John Londo, Barbara Melly, Peter Rush, and Meg Uribe, and court reporter Iris Cooper. The session is projected to last approximately 1 hour in total. At the conclusion of this session, the meeting will be reopened to members of the public. No action or vote will be taken during the closed session, and matters to be discussed during the closed session shall be limited to settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. The section 286.011 subsection 8 session is reported to commence at 12, we'll call it 12:05. Upon conclusion of the closed session, this meeting will be reopened to the public. The time of termination of the closed session shall be read into the record, and the session will be reopened to the public. Ms. Uribe, please confirm once the session has been closed to the public.
Thank you, Chairman Collins. Give me 1 second to close the session, and then I will confirm.
Okay, so they're going private, right? Correct? And then they're going to come in the public in an hour from now, correct? I think that is what's going on. I believe that is what's going on. Hold on, everybody. Okay, that is fine. We got a lot to talk about. Holy smokes. We have got a lot to talk about. Okay, let me know. Now, what I believe is I believe they're going private on the ACC settlement negotiation, litigation, whatever, the cost of litigation. And I think they're going to go public. We have got some information here. I've got a lot of information. Not a lot, but we've got some new information. First of all, let me do a roll call. We've got some new reporting on the details of this AC settlement. And I'm going to say it is absolutely fascinating. And I don't quite know how to read it. I'm going to lean on you all to let me know what you think. Patrick Baylor Bear is in the house. David Lee Go Gators, Michigan State Spartan, Anthony Carlson, Penn State Charlie Atwood, A-Mac, LSU Tiger, Ryan Brooks, K.S. Bear Fan, Joaquin Morales, Daniel Gygax, Mr. Mountaineer, Mr. Cowboy, MBM, Cornhusker, Skaven, yes. Wolverine, Marcus Williams, Young, Seminole, Jeff Morgan, Chef Mall, that college football guy, Breeze Fraze in the house, Rock and Rant is in the house, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina, that is the question. Huffer Billy Paul back in the house. Thanks for coming on in. I appreciate it. All good. 720. BYU Kenneth Stromness is in. Heelan, Florida is in. Clemson Tiger, Cranky Tiger. What did I say? Clemson Tiger, Cranky Tiger is in the house. Benjamin Griffin, Morris Simmons, O.T. Hicks Sr. Let the Big Ten and SEC bidding wars begin. Chad Bracey is in the house. Steve Bearcat Steve is in the house. Boy, I'm glad that volume is good. We're going to need it later. We are going to need it later because they're going to come back in public session. AMAC is here. Vox Quindaro is in the house. Stephen Vitt. Wow, a lot of people are coming on in early. Jeff Keyes, Nick Boardman, Bob Swanger. My goodness. Okay, let me get to the super chat real quick here. Huffer Billy Paul, a glorious day. Time to move forward and make the ACC great again. Wow, thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it, Huffer Billy Paul. It is a victory day. V-Day, victory day for Clemson and Florida State. Clemson, I believe their Board of Trustees meeting is going to be starting a little bit later. I think 1 o'clock Eastern. Let me know if I've got that wrong, but thank you for the super chat, Huffer Billy Paul. I do appreciate it. John Till, ACC leftovers should merge with the PAC and the AAC4. Thank you for the super chat, John Till. Thank you for your continuous generosity. I do appreciate it very much. Bill G gifted 5 memberships. I'm going to get to the reporting real quick. We've got some fascinating new information. Buckle up, brace for impact. Bill G, once again, giving out his incredible generosity. 5 gifted membership. Jeff Keyes, Michael Morse, Chris, Chef Mall, and Marcus Williams. You are all new members of the College Football Peek Around the Corner family. Please say thank you to Bill G when you get the opportunity. Bill G, thank you so very much. Unbelievable, incredible family member of this channel. Bill G, All of you are knighted. Officially now. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger. Let me get to this, if you all don't mind. If you all don't mind, let me get to something. Woo! Baby. Take a look at this. Andre Adelson, more details emerging from the settlement between the ACC, Florida State, and Clemson via sources. Exit fee is expected to drop by $18 million each year through 2029 and 30. After that, the exit fee drops to $75 million, and any exiting team will retain its media rights. A couple of things. I got a couple of questions. One, okay. So if the exit fee is expected to drop about $18 million each year, and then is expected to drop to $75 million after the 29-30 season, what is the original number right now? Is it $200 million? Now, this is not confirmation that it is $200 million. It could be $570 million, and then it drops $18 million each year into 2029-30. This news report does not tell us, right? It doesn't tell us what the number is right now. I got a second observation, a second question on this. It says after that, after the 29-30 season, after that, the exit drops to $75 million, and any exiting team will retain its media rights. I'm assuming, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that if you pay the exit fee before 29 and 30, you're going to also retain your media rights. Why would you pay the exit fee? Right? So, the question of the day, among any detail that could possibly be reported, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night, or within the hour, what is the number? What is the number to pay to get out of the ACC, and most importantly, to gain back your media rights? What is it today? Now, you can say, well, let's say it's $200 million today, and this reporting is 5 years, 18, that's $90 million. Maybe it goes from 200 down to about 110 or 130. It goes from 130 to 75. Maybe that's what this is, but maybe it's not. Now, I don't know if anyone's got any more information on that, any more reporting on that, any more like, have you heard anything? Has the PATC family heard anything? Or it could be as low as, it could be, here's, Rock and Rand says it could be 165 million, because if you go 18 to 165, you eventually get to 75 million or somewhere close to that in 29 after the 29-30 season. It could be that too, but they did say there was a sharp decline after the 29-30 season. So maybe, I don't know. We've got to find out what the number is today. Because if the number is $200 million today, look, I have like many of you, I have read everything on this. I'm listening to podcasts. But every single podcast, everybody who talks about this, all of them are repeating this line. Quote, I'm paraphrasing. This will gain the ACC stability for the next 5 years, but then the ACC will look a lot different. Why are they so sure that this is going to gain ACC stability? Because the number is so high? Or is it because no matter what they do, they can't get back their media rights until 29-30? Because if Annie Staples on 3 reporting is correct and it's 200 and it drops 18 million a year, I got more information. Let me get to that in a second. My peek around the corner information. Ricky Tungate. Here a donation for some Diet Cherry Coke. You will need it. Oh, this is not Cherry Coke. I'm not drinking Cherry Coke. I'm just drinking plain zero sugar. You're right. I got to get some Cherry Coke. I ran out of Cherry Zero Sugar Coke. I need to get some. Ricky Tungate, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate your incredible generosity, Mr. Hoosier, and your super chat on our latest episodes and shows that we've done. Thank you, so kind. What is the number now? That is what I'm going to ask. That is what we need to find out. What is the number now? Here is another, again, I'm just looking for any, okay. Rock and Rant, you are correct. Rock and Rant, you are correct. Rock and Rant, are you there? Are you still in the chat room? Rock and Rant, let me know if you're still in the chat room, because I need you to give me a phone call right now live on this live show. Rock and Rant, you are correct. Rock and Rant, give me a call. Please, if you got any time, please give me a call. Let me open up the phone number. 763-260-1333. We're going to open up to everything. Rock and Rant, get on the line. I will apologize to you, and then we got to talk. We got breaking news. Breaking news. Everybody hold on here. Everybody hold on here. Rock and Rant, is that you?
Yeah, man. My rest of my March is screwed because I've now been right for the one time I'll be allowed to all month by my wife.
Well, I often apologize to you. By the way, this is just another one. You might never be correct to your wife, but you're often correct to me. Listen to this, and you probably know this. You probably know this.
I was just doing the math. I was just doing the calculation. So what you're going to tell me is going to be new.
Ira Scoffle, or however you, the war chant, Florida State guy, okay? He just tweeted out, echoing this. What I'm hearing is the cost to leave immediately after this agreement would be $165 million. And yep, it will drop to 75. Are you... Okay. I'm trying to $165 million? That's it?
Yeah, the only thing I would just caution, right, is we don't know if there's like another third-degree echo chamber going on. You know, it seems like that could be it, and it seems like the implied cliff of after that it drops to 75. Like, that wording is weird because it would just be like the way to do it if it's 165 is it goes down $18 million a year, bottoming out at $75 million in that year. The other thing I think she wrote strangely, and I don't know what it is either, is I don't know why she juxtaposed that last sentence with media rights. So the thing I'm curious about, which I think you alluded to, is it like 165, but you don't get your media rights back through 2029-30, or after that, and then it kicks in that year, or did she just write it inartfully?
Yeah.
And essentially, like, it doesn't really matter. 165 is the all-in, pick your media rights and your FSU logo and go at 165, right? I mean, none of this means that the Big Ten or SEC is going to do anything tomorrow, but I mean, it even changes the number. If it's 165 versus, 200, I think I said, your cost to you as a program and future value of money is like $33 million. This makes it like 20, if you make up 24 million or 25 million, you're golden. Forget about the perception. So it would be key to find out specifically that question about, is this media rights included every single time through 2030? Because then it's just like ridiculous, and it even makes it more ridiculous for teams who might be thinking about the Big 12, right? Because their number goes down lower too. Who's going to be FOMO in that zone? If this is really the number, it's insane.
It's insane. My first take on this, it's frustrating for people like myself and yourself and people in the PATC family who has got a curiosity, because the wording of this is so frustrating. Because, first of all, logically speaking, if you don't get your media rights back on a paying out this exit fee, then it's really not even an exit fee, right?
Right. It's not an exit fee because it doesn't even do. If we go back like a year when we were going, it is going to be ACC exit fee, which is whatever it was, 2 to 3x operating costs kind of thing, plus media rights. That's where the 570 and all that other kind of thing. So it makes no logical sense that it would be 200 million, because that means they somehow changed the exit fee dynamics massively over the last year or two, right? So that seems it is completely. It's amazing that writers are not writing well.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm going to make an executive decision here, peek around the corner. I am going to go ahead and assume, which is very, very dangerous. And I'm probably going to take the L on this, but I'm going to assume whatever this bleeping number is, and 2 hours from now, whatever this bleeping number is, if Rock and Rant and his wife send that number in a check, and I'm sure it's going to be Rock and Rant's wife's name on the check, when they send it to the University of Miami, and Miami sends it to the ACC, then Miami is going to get its media rights back, because none of this even makes sense. If you don't get your media rights back, then you're not going to be, you are untouchable. No one's going to want you. You don't have value to the Big Ten and SEC.
It's kissing your sister kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we are going to assume that when you pay the check, you get your media rights back. So we're gonna focus in on one issue. What is the bleeping number? Now,
I think, Greg, I don't want to cut you off. The one thing though is, why are they if this is the number, why was all of the reporting so specific about $100 million, which turns out to possibly be wrong, in 2930? Like, why would it even have started there, right? It makes this feels like there's something we're missing, because why would they start reporting that number as opposed to just saying, 165 right now or 200 right now, going down 18 million? Like, why did they start there? What was the trigger of that's the year they all reported starting yesterday?
I don't know. This is crazy frustrating. It shouldn't be this difficult. That number is everything. What is it? If it's 165, even like Frank the Tank, I'm going to put up Frank the Tank's tweet. He says to Adelson's report, this is an overall win for Florida State and Clemson, if true. The power of the gore was the uncertainty of the buyout amount. Schools can plan for a $75 million exit fee as opposed to an unknown amount that could have been hundreds of millions of dollars. But that's not even the story. If the number is 165, 185, 190 today, that doesn't bring in my opinion, that doesn't bring stability to the ACC unless the two ignition points, North Carolina and Notre Dame, unless North Carolina can't even get through the doors of the Board of Governors to talk about this. I mean, there may still be stability because of the political stuff that's going on in the state of North Carolina, state of Virginia. Florida State and Clemson might not be, they're not the number one targets, whatever. But it ain't the number. The number 165 is absolutely doable. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it absolutely. I mean, the other reason could be if they think that they think that the SEC and Big Ten are not going to move right now because of whatever, right? Like they're not. There's no urgency.
Sure.
They want to wait for Notre Dame and North Carolina. But I think one thing that could be out there is every contract is subject to change, right? If the willing parties want to do it. So if you're the Big Ten, and you can get Notre Dame whenever you'd add them if it was the 25th member, you wouldn't care, right? Like ultimately, like whatever number you needed to, you'd probably bring them. But if your fear is, well, we don't want to, not every team necessarily. It's a choice to decide that every team you have to bring in has to be additive in that moment, or else you don't bring them in. There's another scenario which is, well, long as Northwestern doesn't lose money, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to give Florida State a half share. Because if Florida State just gets, like, I don't know, the same amount of money they get from the ACC today, do you think that Florida State would take that deal to get out of the ACC? And in the same breath, the Big Ten would therefore improve. So they're already worried about improving their out-of-conference schedule, hence the scheduling agreement, right, with SEC that's being pended. But if you bring Florida State in right now, even if you're not bringing more money in the moment of the conference, and even if FSU isn't getting even what Washington and Oregon are getting, you just made your internal conference schedule for your existing media partners more valuable every single season with more and more key things, so that when your deal comes up, you've improved all of the ratings, and you've already proven how much more valuable the ratings are going to be. So if you're very short-sighted, you're like, well, I'm Northwestern and I'm making $70 million. If I bring Florida State in, well, I don't want to lose any money, and they're not going to give me $1 more because my deal is done. You don't do it. If you're Florida State and you're like short-sighted, you go, well, I'm not coming in if I'm getting less than Washington or Oregon. There's a third scenario, which is, holy crap, I can make my schedule better now, even though it's not urgent, and even though I don't know what's going on with Notre Dame. So just like I'm trying to make sure my out-of-conference scheduling is better brand value for my TV partners, I can now make it so that there's less Purdue versus Northwestern games on, and I now have Florida State playing Northwestern, right? But I also get Florida State playing Michigan, and Florida State playing Ohio State, and I have Florida State playing Penn State, right? Like Ohio State in the next 4 or 5 years, so that when 29-30 comes up, I can have all of my ratings go up. I raise my floor. That's like a scenario out there, even if it's not quote unquote urgent or isn't what we've done. If I could think of that, and I'm not even in this business, those guys could think of it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out.
And even more immediate, How about the playoff distribution? If a Florida State and Clemson goes to the SEC, the SEC's going to make way more money for each team when it comes to playoff distribution, according to the model they use. And you might say to Florida State and Clemson, yeah, you'll get a few more $1 million each. You get the certainty of joining the most valuable, powerful conference in the country, but we're going to take the rest of that money and distribute it among the other 16 SEC teams. I mean, that playoff distribution money can grease the skids for a Clemson and a Florida State.
Right, or even take it to the next level. If you did this now before, I mean, again, this is just like riffing because this is what we do. It's like sports talk radio.
Yeah.
But you can make an argument, hey, SEC and Big Ten, you know how excited you are about getting 4 automatic qualifiers that you're going to impose on everybody? What do you do if this happens? Yeah. We collectively just took Florida State, Clemson, Miami, whoever, right? 4 teams. Like maybe North Carolina, they get their act together. Maybe you have to suck it up and take NC State. Maybe Notre Dame does or doesn't come, but you can almost put them aside for a second. Guess what, guys? We're not getting 4 automatic qualifiers and you're getting 2 anymore because you don't have anybody. We're getting 5 automatic qualifiers and you're getting 1.
Yeah. Now I will say, and this has always been true, it's always been easier for a conference to expand while it's in the midst of a new contract negotiations with their current media partners, right? So I'm going to go back to the Ross Dillinger here. He says, this is a reminder of our story Monday and why the 2030 date is so important. Stakeholders believe that the next major shift within the industry will come between the years 30 and 32, when the litany of events could trigger sweeping changes on the college sports landscape already made unstable as it shifts into a more professional model. During those years, the Big 12 and the Big 10 television contracts end. The NCAA men's basketball tournament and college football playoff television deals end. The sport will also be 5 years into the athlete revenue sharing concept in college sports that many expect to more formally divide the richest schools from all the rest. So there is a more natural launching point 5 years from now, right?
Absolutely.
But this is what is just, I can't shake this. Here, this AC settlement is a negotiation between Florida State and Clemson, and North Carolina was on that side, and eventually I'm sure Miami went over on that side, and maybe a couple other schools went to that side, and you got this negotiation, and I keep saying to myself, if the number truly is 200, 190, 170, if it's a blessed 165 starting today, well, by God, they drove that number that low starting today. They didn't, North Carolina, Miami, Florida State, Clemson didn't just go in and say, well, you know what? Since the only real time slot that we could be jettisoning ourselves out of here, now they're talking to themselves, right? Is 2029-30 because all these changes, new media rights for the Big Ten, blah, 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 new college football playoffs. I mean, the real important number on the important day is 29 and 30, and we want that as low as possible. But they got, if it's true, they got 165, 170, 180 on March 4th, 2025. That has to mean they must think there's a possibility. They drove that number that low this early. Something ain't.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
something's off. I mean, you have contacts. I would be curious, like the ones that you talk to, of going, okay, whether any of those conferences have a pro rata left, right? Or if Big Ten goes to their partners and go, hey, could you just float us another $43 million, which is whatever ACC is giving Florida State this year, or SEC does the same to ESPN, who's already paying that money anyway, in some form. And granted, they would have to still pay for the ACC with a backfill. Would you be willing to like give us this amount of money to bring them over now, knowing it's going to increase the ratings and the value of a big portion of their schedule?
Yeah.
I'm curious whether any of the TV insiders think that, yeah, they would probably do that or not, or they'd be like, no, we don't want to spend more and more money right now. It's not worth the investment, even at that kind of a discount rate. Because remember, like even back when there was a conversation of, well, I think Florida State, might be willing to do something for like $250 million, even if they didn't get 100% TV rights, if they had to take a half share. That was like a year ago. Maybe as high as $300 million they could go. Right? So now you're talking, so if you don't have to go that much money out, you could probably afford to take even less of a media share just to put everybody in the best position for when those negotiations come. Like, again, like I'm just spitballing and like, projecting like no inside information, but logically that conversation should happen even if there was no urgency behind it.
Yeah. I mean, look what look what SMU did to get into the Power Four conference. Now it was a big jump, right? Big jump. They got in there, but they spent a lot of money to go to the ACC. I mean, they gathered up a couple $100 million. I mean, to have that certainty to jump, if again, first party talks can, they're going to begin here real soon when you got a date certainty and a cost certainty. If you can get out at any date, you're still going to have to give the notice, but when you are able to get out, when you are able to buy back your media rights within the year, within 18 months, and now every one of these schools legally can do that, you can have first party talks. The legal counsel of the Big Ten ain't going to snuff it out. The SEC ain't going to snuff it out. So we're talking first party talks here, guys.
I wish that board meeting was still on, or if part of this was being discussed.
Well,
so that we could hear like whether the question we're asking came up to the athletic director.
On-field success.
Oh, wait a second. It looks like that is back on. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. I'm going to let you go, Rock and Rant.
All right, good.
The public meeting's on. All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Great call. Hold on. My bad. It looks like it's on. They're talking about viewership numbers.
And that we've studied our own viewership. Not only have we looked outward at the landscape of collegiate athletics, but we've looked at what is FSU.
Let me know if the volume is still working, ladies and gentlemen.
What does FSU bring to the media marketplace? So we have a very tight grip on what our brand is and what our viewership numbers are. And we know that regardless, year over year, our viewership is steady for decades. People watch us. Maybe they watch us, maybe they hate watch us, but they watch. Any questions on the viewership pool?
No.
Okay. The second aspect is withdrawal from the conference. As we all have been talking about for the past year, it used to be a monetary formula to withdraw from the conference. There was a fee, but what did that fee entail? We don't know. The return of the media rights, I think it's fair to just call it disputed at this point. We did not agree about what the grant of rights meant, what the effect was, and it was disputed. Under this system, upon notice of withdrawal and payment of the withdrawal fee, a school who is exiting the conference would exit with its media rights unencumbered. That number is established for the upcoming year and it reduces over time. And it's been widely reported in the media in the last 24 hours. It does reduce over time. This provides clarity and certainty for each school to determine what its best fit is. And if there is a school that decides to withdraw, there's just certainty and clarity that wasn't there before.
Smokes. Holy smokes.
Is there any questions on the withdrawal?
Do you have any questions? Any trustees have any questions about the withdrawal?
None.
Holy smokes.
Okay. So we need a board vote with regard to the essential parameters of the settlement, authorizing the essential parameters, giving president authority to take actions necessary to affect the settlement, and with authority to make any necessary adjustments within the parameters approved by the board. This does take, it's a simple majority, it takes 7 votes for approval. And what I will do is I'll ask for a motion, I'll ask for a second, and then we'll open it up for any further discussion. So can I get a motion to approve the essential parameters of the settlement?
Motion to approve.
Second, John Thiel.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions, any comments?
I would like to add one thing. Chairman, I've been notified that Clemson has ended their meeting on a positive note and authorized the president to complete the settlement and has adjourned their meeting.
Okay, great. All right, so all in favor of the settlement, or let's say it this way, anybody opposed to the settlement? Okay, seeing none, it passes. So Carolyn, as I understand it, we're probably going to finalize all of these documents, and everybody's agreed that it's going to be within 30 days to get all the legal documents done and finalized, but that this is planned. All of these changes are going to kick in this coming year. There's no delay on that.
Holy
but we
smokes.
do need some time to finish up the final agreements, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. President, would you like to say anything?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, I so appreciate all the hard work that got put into this. Couldn't have happened without Chair Collins, who has just been a great partner, part of the team, and helped us in so many ways. Carolyn, amazing job. She did a lot of the heavy lifting and
holy smokes.
And AD offered as well. So the 4 of us spent a lot of time together. And
okay,
as I said,
all right, okay, all right. So Victory Day, Florida State and Clemson. Kerry Gold knows no to ACC teams from Florida State and Clemson. You're welcome. Thank you for the super chat. Kerry Gold knows. I apologize. I did not get to it. My head is spinning. I apologize to Mr. Seminoles. Kerry Gold knows. I wish I wouldn't have turned in over the last year or so. Turned in first today would have saved a whole bunch of heartache. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows, for your super chat. And again, I apologize I didn't get to it earlier. Thank you for all of your support, Kerry Gold knows. This is a victory day, but I look, I don't know how anybody can sit here and say the ACC has at least gained stability over the next 5 years. I am at a loss. I'm at a complete loss. 165. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna take a couple steps back. I said first party talks could start today. Well, in that Florida State Board of Trustees meeting, they said it would take 30 days to get all the documents signed and everything. So, okay. Sometime in the spring, first party talks is going to happen. And again, you don't use... Here's an example. When we talked about... Remember when we talked about how the Big Ten and the SEC put their chips in the middle of the table, and they got this governance power, they got the distribution model, and now they have the opportunity to change some of the college football playoffs going forward. Not all of it. There are protections in it, but they're going to change some of it, probably automatic qualifiers. When you get this power, you use it, right? Because there's a cost of gaining that power, be it personal relationship, professional relationship. I mean, there's a cost. When you get that power, you're going to use it, and hopefully to the benefit of yourself. That's just real. That's how it is. That's real politique. When Florida, in my opinion, let me know how wrong I am once again, but when Florida State and Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, when they use this leverage that they gain to bring this number down to 165, you use it if you have an opportunity. That is the question. That's the question. Now, the SEC and the Big Ten, we're going to start with the biggest dominoes here. The SEC and the Big Ten, I am going to open up the phone lines here in a little bit. If you're just joining us, we cover the live stream of the Florida State Board of Trustees. We started at the very beginning of it. We caught the end of it. It's confirmed. It's 165. And if you pay it out and you exit the conference, the day you exit the conference, you get your media rights back. So, an example, if Florida State sends the ACC a $165 million check and announce its exit before August 15th of this year on July 1st, 2026, they're out of the conference. Just for an example. But, again, it gets back to the opportunity, right? The opportunity. Clemson, the SEC and the Big Ten, neither of them are really within, they don't, the Big Ten has their media rights negotiations in another 4 or 5 years. The SEC a little bit further than that. But again, what Rock and Rant brought up earlier in this show is that there is a quasi meeting negotiations going on right now. The Big Ten and the SEC has had these advisory meetings. They're looking at, the SEC's looking at going to 9 conference games. How convenient would that be if that conference expands to 18 or 20 teams? But they're looking at doing this scheduling agreement. And if they do a scheduling agreement, both conferences are going to get more money from their media partners, but their media partners in return is probably going to be asking for a little bit longer term, right? They're going to get something out of it. Well, if the SEC brings in a Florida State Clemson, you can see how this would work. Like, now there are bigger games against each other. I mean, you don't have to, the Clemson South Carolina game can be a permanent rival SEC game. Now you've got Clemson and South Carolina playing a Big Ten team in a non-conference game. You're creating more value within your conference and your media partners. So again, all these reports are saying it's easier to expand when you're doing your media rights negotiations. That's correct. But they're kind of doing that right now, right? They're trying to land all these planes. The Big Ten and the SEC are trying to get these automatic qualifying spots. The SEC, Greg Sankey said yesterday, he wants to go to 9 conference games. They want more money for that. They're sort of in this media negotiations. And then, again, as I brought up earlier, you've got the playoff distribution model that has a certain metric to it. If Florida State and Clemson go to the SEC is bringing in more money right off the bat. You can give Florida State and Clemson some of it. Florida State and Clemson might not get the entire increase, right? And then the rest of the money goes to the other SEC programs. That helps grease the skids. I am $165 million. It takes two to tangle. It takes two to tangle. The school and the conference. And as we know, one of the rules in realignment, the conference never calls the school first. But Clemson and Florida State are going to be calling the Big Ten and the SEC. Same thing with Miami. North Carolina, we'll get to in a second. Miami, shoot. Other schools will they'll drop a call. They'll pick up the phone and talk to St. Petiti. Why not? It costs you nothing. But the point is, $165 million. SMU gathered itself more than $165 million to get to the ACC. I think Florida State is looking at, okay, now, I get it. They've got this deal done, right? Where they're going to get more money. Viewership numbers, right? And they've basically have, Clemson is going to be playing Notre Dame every single year. Florida State and Miami are going to be trading off every other year to play Notre Dame. The viewership numbers is already baked in for Florida State and Clemson. And those other ACC programs are going to be playing Florida State, Clemson, and Miami less, and they're going to be playing Notre Dame less because of this new deal. It's already baked in. Florida State and Clemson are going to be making more money. And maybe, just maybe, they're thinking to themselves, well, we'll just do this for 5 years and make more money. But if you have an opportunity, if the other partner is ready to tango with you, do the tango. You've got to do it. Now, the question is, will the SEC and the Big Ten take those first party talks 30 days from now, whatever, and is there the political will, all those relationship intangibles, can it happen? I want to point to North Carolina. I had somebody in the chat room during our last live show, they just put it in about a couple hours ago, saying, Greg, you're lying about North Carolina. Look at their viewership numbers. Nobody wants North Carolina. No, they're not looking at North Carolina. Big Ten, SEC, not looking at North Carolina. Viewership numbers are important. No question about it. But viewership numbers alone doesn't. UCLA was not brought into the Big Ten because of viewership numbers. It was brought in because of the market. The Big Ten wanted the whole city of Los Angeles. Viewership numbers is important, but for the national advertisers, they want the correct demographics watching your live sports content because the correct demographics are buying the products and services of those national advertisers. North Carolina is wanted for a bunch of reasons. A bunch of reasons. One, of course, Research University, AAU, big brand, virgin country for SEC. The student population is actually rising in North Carolina, where most of the country, it is falling. We have hit a student apocalypse. It has begun this year. The state of North Carolina and Virginia attract international students. These SEC presidents want international students. They want to have a larger bandwidth, larger diversity of students, because everyone's going to be watching. Everyone's going to be wanting to grab that extra student as the entire country, almost the entire country, is heading towards a student apocalypse. There is lots of reasons, and the relationships. The relationships, of course, is important. North Carolina, make no doubt about it. Sankey, again, I'll go back. Brett McMurphy's report was absolutely 100% accurate. It's what we reported 6 weeks prior to his article. 100% accurate. The all that buzz, all that reporting that he did and others and Pete Thamel has said the same thing. SEC wants North Carolina. Now you can say that SEC is a bunch of idiots. You can say the Big Ten's a bunch of idiots. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but that is what they would want. That is what they would target first. So now the question is, and look, if you take Mr. Collins, the chairman of the board at Florida State, or you take Richard McAuliffe and you bring him into a room and you jab them with a truth serum and you ask them, what do you want to happen now? What do you want to happen now? Collins and Richard McAuliffe, in my opinion, I don't want to be sued, would say, we want North Carolina to go to the Board of Governors and act. We want North Carolina to ignite this. The number's 165. Clemson and Florida State has done the work in the courts. They have made the leverage play. To have that number at 165, the Florida State leadership, the Clemson leadership would be saying, North Carolina, it's time for you to act. So let's go to North Carolina. 165, come on. Look, we have done live streams of North Carolina Board of Regents. Their Board of Regents. We've heard them complain about their financial situation. We know that they've been looking at private capital. We've been reporting that to you. There's not a doubt in the world. They just hired Bill Belichick. They just got a new recruiting budget. They've increased their coaching salary pool. Money that they don't have, they are spending. Now, the question is that the next step that I'm going to be watching for, if this thing is going to erupt before 29 and 30, when does North Carolina, Lee Roberts, Bubba Cunningham, I think they're going to leave the Board of Regents chair prior at home in Chapel Hill at home. But when does Lee Roberts and Bubba Cunningham go over to the Board of Governors when do they go there and say, okay, 165 to get into a bidding war, Big Ten and SEC? What do we need to do, Board of Governors? Can you please give us the ability to have first-party talks with the Big Ten and the SEC? I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe that if Mr. Roberts and Mr. Cunningham goes to the Board of Governors, I think all that has to be public. I think there has to be a public notice. So we're going to be looking at any public notices in the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors, I think there's 24 members, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, the Board of Governors, Peter Hans, the president, they have how many institutions that they are responsible for? I don't remember what the number is, 16, 17. And of course, the big one is North Carolina State. They're going to have to, whatever happens at the Board of Governors meeting, whatever, if North Carolina ignites this, part of their financial plan to the Board of Governors has to include North Carolina State. Maybe not to go with them to the SEC, the Big Ten. Don't know if they get that opportunity, but some financial, something has to happen good, some security for North Carolina State for the Board of Governors to support any possible move of North Carolina Chapel Hill. We are going to go to your phone calls, but we're going to go to your phone calls right now. But I am Florida State and Clemson along, probably in these negotiations with Phillips. We know that North Carolina went over to the Florida State Clemson side. They rattled the cages. We've been talking about that. They got that number to 165, and they've had to do it. That is a very doable number, as long as there's opportunities on the other side. But any one of those universities, if there is a P2 possibility, any one of those universities are going to do the 165. And I don't care about, in my opinion, let me know if I'm wrong, I don't even though they got this scheduling agreement, even though they still have the success initiative, that is still in play, right? The success initiative plus the viewership number, I still think 165. I still think that is unbelievably doable as long as there is an opportunity on the other side. And I think they're gonna talk to the other side. They're gonna be able to talk to third-party talks. Done. No more third-party talks. No more leaks about it. No more discussions. After 30 days, after all the documents are gathered, we've got reports that Clemson has done the same thing as Florida State. They've approved it. The 3 steps are over. It's all done. It's an absolute wrap. Pete Thamel, the ACC Board of Directors, have voted to agree to changes. It's all done. First party talks legally can probably happen in the next 30 days. We're going to get to your phone calls right now. Going to get to your phone calls right now. Hold on, everybody. Daniel Gorby, it's nice to have options. Thank you, Mr. Seminole. Thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it so very much. And Daniel, thank you for keeping your head on a swivel and giving me the information, the link to do the Board of Trustees meeting at Florida State, Tallahassee. Thank you so much, Mr. Gorby. I do appreciate it. Morris Simmons, bye-bye ACC. Go Noles. Thank you, Morris Simmons, Mr. Seminole. Mr. Buckeye gifted a membership. Holy smokes. I am behind. I did not see that. I apologize to Mr. Buckeye I did not see who got the membership. Please, whoever got it, say thank you to Greg. Expedition Greg, you are both knighted officially, cloak and dagger. Thank you so very much, Mr. Buckeye Expedition Greg, and I thank you for all the help that you give us as well. Kerry Gold knows North Carolina is a round ball school and always will be. I don't understand the false hype. I get it. I understand it. I understand people not understanding. But from the presidential level, North Carolina is wanted. North Carolina is wanted. Kerry Gold knows ACC was skewered or scared, whatever. Both of those works. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows, for the super chat. Once again, thank you for all your support and generosity. Thank you so very much. Before I open up the phone lines, and I'm going to do it, you're going to call in, let me know what you're thinking. I have got to make sure that I am not way behind on the latest reporting. We are going to open up the phone lines. I just want to make sure I've got the latest reporting. Baylor Athletic Director Mac Rhodes is the new committee chair for the College Football Playoff Committee. Okay, we are going to open up the phone lines. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Talking about this situation we covered live, the live stream of Florida State Board of Trustees. They have approved the ACC settlement. Clemson Board of Regents have officially approved.
Call from
JD.
They have approved the ACC settlement. JD, are you on the line?
I am, sir.
First of all, congratulations. This is a monster victory for Florida State. Monster victory for Florida State. 165 starting today or 30 days from now, however you want to read it. 165, that can start the first party talks can start in 30 days. Now, we don't know. We don't know if there's going to be any ignition on this, but 165, 75 million and 29 and 30. What are your thoughts? Congratulations, JD, Mr. Seminole.
Well, I appreciate it, sir, and I am relieved because the limbo that everybody's been under hasn't been good either, for the brand programs or any ACC team, for the conference in general. Resolution needed to happen. And granted, this is still a huge price to leave, but those mistakes were made back, 7 or 8 years ago, so there's a financial price to pay. But at least we have an opportunity and a roadmap to lead when that opportunity arises.
Yes.
So,
yep. Yes.
So now we can get out of the news. We can get back to trying to win again. Hopefully we can flush we can flush the 2024 season. But yes, it opens up all kinds of possibilities. I don't know what kind of possibilities it opens up for the networks because, for instance, ESPN played matchmaker for Oklahoma and Texas. That deal was coming to an end, and they played matchmaker to the SEC.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know if they could do that for the ACC, but at the same time, if there's a agreeable, well, we have an exit price. That's what we wanted from the beginning. Don't get me wrong. In the lawsuits, there were other claims and provisions and damages being sought, but from the very beginning, we got what we always wanted. A roadmap, or at least a set price to get out, opportunities arise, and in the meantime, an opportunity to be, competitive monetarily with the Power 2.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yep.
I've been very nervous with all this collaboration between the SEC and the Big Ten on scheduling, but then I started thinking about it, and others have even talked about it too. FSU's got a good schedule the next few years as far as visibility. You've got to play Bama 2 years in a row and then Georgia 2 years in a row. Play Florida every year. Play Clemson every year. Play Miami every year. Then you'll mix in some Louisvilles. And then now it looks like we're probably going to play Notre Dame 2 out of every 3, I think. So
yeah,
that's a good schedule the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I was really concerned with those scheduling collaborations between the Power 2, because what it do is it would reduce your visibility, which hurts your brand. But I've been told for the last, you probably noticed that I've kind of calmed down a little bit with my angst as far as in the last year or so, because I was just told by multiple people that come at the latest 2030, 2031, there were winks and nods that nobody knew for sure where FSU would be 100%, but that they were going to be taken care of when that next phase of whatever college football looks like. And so, again, and I don't mean there's predetermined outcomes. I'm just saying they were promised they won't be left behind.
Yeah, and we termed it here at PATC, they're too big a brand, too big a fan base, too much of an emerging universe, all that stuff. They're going to get to where they need to get to. It might not be a straight line, but they're going to get there. So that's how we've termed it here at Peek Around the Corner. Yep.
And that's the way that I understand it. I mean, I there were things that I believe were true. We don't know the behind-the-scenes conversations that Peter Collins or Michael Alford have had with networks or other third-party individuals. But now that they can have first-party conversations, it gives them the opportunity to put some of the assumptions that other parties might have had to bed. There might be the assumptions from those in the Big Ten or the SEC that may not be accurate. It opens open lines of communications now established. I'm sure if they wanted to talk to any of those folks, they could. But I'm just saying it can be out in the daylight.
Yep.
And so there's so many opportunities. And if it takes a couple of years to work out those relationships, so be it. I don't know how it works out. Well, on the ACC side, they had to have known what their fate was going to be, and it was just time to accept it. I was listening to. Go ahead.
I will say, there are. I feel for all of them. There are a few universities that I really feel for. In regards to the new ACC viewership numbers and all this stuff, and Notre Dame's agreement with Clemson, the university I feel most for is Louisville.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Virginia Tech a little bit, and I mean, yeah, they got to know that I mean, they absolutely know that something is, the ACC is not going to exist as it does. You know, in 5 years or 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. And then you think about Stanford and California, and my goodness, there's a lot of you. I mean, now they needed. I heard they needed 12 votes to get this done. So that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's accurate, but 12 votes out of 17. Notre Dame being a vote. So there had to be 12 votes, 12 universities that war game this out, right? And said, well, 5 years from now, 6, 7 years from now, this is probably where we're going to be. This is probably, can this work? I don't know, man. 12 votes needed to get this done. And my goodness, 165. I know that's a lot of money for you and me, John, but that's a doable number if there is a willing party on the other side of the fence.
Well, I'm sure you've heard the same rumors, and I don't know necessarily rumors, just behind the scenes view that it was a mess within the ACC. That they had broke off into factions. I can't cuss on your show, sorry,
Yeah.
but it was not good, and they had to bring this to a resolution. You know, I was listening to one of the War Chant shows last night, and it also, you know, they reiterated what was, or it might have been something from yesterday. Ira Schoffel was talking about the, I don't know if it's a verdict, but a ruling that was sent down from it was either the appeals court or the Florida Supreme Court, I forget whichever one, last Friday, and a lot of people didn't give it, they took note of it, but they didn't necessarily notate the importance of it. They were more or less telling the ACC, quit appealing, we're not going to hear it, or we're not going to continue to hear these. Stop sending it here.
Yeah.
And so I didn't read much into the ruling, but what he was saying, what somebody else was saying, in other words, I could see that Florida case was going to get way ahead of the North Carolina case. Because if the appeals court or the Florida Supreme Court wasn't going to hear the appeals, or they were going to reject them, where do you go? And that means Florida, and it doesn't mean the ACC couldn't appeal any judgment, but they had to have seen the handwriting on the wall that Florida was not going to handle any sovereign immunity judgments or rulings to the state of North Carolina. They weren't going to do it. So it was, to me, heading that Florida case was going to get way ahead of the North Carolina case. And to me, that had to have had something. It had to have had an effect. Maybe it was it the number one factor? No, but everything else that you hear has been going on behind the scenes. It had to have pushed it over the top for me. And we may find out it may not have been a factor at all, but I don't see how it couldn't have been. But it's just anybody that has, I don't know, animosity towards FSU or Clemson or any of the others, we don't hate, well, I'm not a fan of the ACC, but there's no hate for other universities, or you don't want other universities to do well. We want everybody who earns it to do well. It's just we weren't necessarily trying to take from other universities in the conference. We're just trying to make up the gap with Florida, with Georgia, with Alabama, because we want to compete for national championships. And that's where we are.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get there. And being $40 million or even as much as $50 million behind per year, that's just not doable. I mean, you've got to find a way. And that's what it was always about. If ESPN would have chipped in more money and would have raised the payout per team, we may not even have ever had this issue. Or if other programs, you referenced Louisville. Louisville tries to compete at the highest level. They're trying to compete for championships. Other programs are doing the same. They're trying to raise. Sounds like North Carolina is going to start trying to compete for championships. It's fantastic. If everybody in the ACC had been doing this for a decade, we might not even be in this position. Because they don't put the effort in recruiting. They don't put the effort in growing their programs and their brands. But anyway, I'm rambling. It is a good day. I think we won. But it wasn't so much about saying we beat UACC. We just needed to reach our goal. And now we have an escape hatch if we need to. And in the meantime, we're going to make more money, and we're going to at least close that gap. And hopefully the doors open for better opportunities are ahead. So Anyway, I could go on for hours, but I know there's probably a million people wanting to call you right now.
Brilliant call, JD. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate the time.
Big time victory. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Beautiful call, JD. The phone lines are open. I'm reading a CBS report. Again, this move could be the glue that keeps the ACC together, or it could be a short-term fix. North Carolina is the crown jewel. Will have its pick between the Big Ten and the SEC.
Call from
Nathan Brown.
Nathan Brown. Holy smokes. 165. 165. Unbelievable.
How you doing this morning, Greg? It's been a crazy 24 hours, no?
Yes, and I think that this is just the start.
Oh, so this is USC 2.0. This blows away the Big 12 picking up 4 schools, 2 more schools to the Big 10. This ACC thing was the last major pin to fall before we have a complete strikeout and we move on to the next steps, whether that's, scheduling agreements or super leagues or whatever. But that dollar amount, 165, it's a little bit more than my highest estimate. But when we were doing estimates over a year ago, it was somewhere right in the middle range of everybody that guessed.
I said 200 to 240.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were 240 to 300, so I was off a
little
bit.
Or whatever. I mean, but
Yeah.
But I did not think it would come this quick either. So
no, neither one of us did.
So that's another thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you to jump ahead in the wavefront machine with me and tell me who's the first school to take advantage of this opportunity, this low buyout amount.
Yeah, I think that is boy. I still think even with the Board of Governors mucking everything up, I still think it's North Carolina.
Okay.
Only because North Carolina is the school that knows that both SEC and the Big Ten are going to go hard after them, and they could possibly get some sort of a little bit of a bidding war going on, and maybe if they act early, they can take care of the North Carolina State issue better. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are saying, oh, Florida State. I mean, they're the ones that hit the courts first, right? I mean, they're the ones
Right.
who sacrifice, who risk the most. And maybe I'll be wrong here. Even with the Board of Governors difficulty, and it is a difficulty, I'm going with North Carolina. Now, maybe Nathan, maybe we're gonna just keep going along here for a couple years, 3 years, like all the reporters seem to think it's gonna happen, because Clemson has locked up this scheduling deal, the viewership numbers. They're gonna get it no matter what. Clemson's gonna get great viewership numbers compared to other ACC schools, Florida State and Miami, because of the scheduling deal. North Carolina doesn't get the viewership numbers. North Carolina is not part of the Notre Dame scheduling agreement. So there may be even, in North Carolina, I know they have Bill Belichick, but, when it comes to success initiative, I mean, North Carolina may have a little bit more incentive to go to the Board of Governors. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to get this extra money like the other ACC schools, and they're spending a lot of money now on Belichick, and they know, everybody knows, Nathan, all the chatter behind the curtain, everybody knows that if North Carolina, if they can do it today, or the legal department say in 30 days from now, because it sounds like it's going to take Florida State 30 days to really sign all the papers. So let's just say April 4th, if North Carolina calls the Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to be receiving those calls. They're going to be working with their partners, all the universities in both conferences, and there's going to be a lot of steam, because there's going to be a lot of fire, Nathan. And North Carolina knows that's going to be the response. So I'm going to go with North Carolina, but I could end up being wrong. We shall see. What do you think, sir?
I think Clemson and Florida State were the outright winners. I think North Carolina and Miami, obviously, they're going to be the benefactors. Miami can do whatever they want, whenever they want. They can write a check, and they don't really have the entailments that some of these other schools do.
Yep.
I think it's interesting if it ends up being some sort of a reverse exodus started by North Carolina. It might look different. The ACC migration or demigration, wherever you want to, emigration, because it's North Carolina starting it rather than it starting at the top. What we're going to find out, and we talked about this last night on the show, what we're going to find out is what's most important. Has everybody been wanting to chase the bag? Is it only been about getting more money, or is it about being perceived as being in the elite conferences in college football, those being the Big Ten and the SEC, at any cost? And there's some assumptions I've made that other people have made that it's one or the other, but now's the time to put up or shut up, and that's where we're going to find out.
Yeah.
What's driving the bus? Is it money or perception?
I would add the word, I would say perception, but I think a more important word is security.
That's fair.
Because if and I'm not saying you're not secure, if you're in a different, but if you are in the SEC, for example, you've got security. I mean, Washington and Oregon went to the Big Ten because they perceived it, a conference, for the universities, research. It's going to help their perception, their reputation, whatever, right? Like what you're saying, but it's also going to give them security. I mean, so that is also like, again, it's like, are you going to wait 5 years, 4 years, or do you want that certainty now? So
outside the ACC, one more note, and I'll get off. Outside the ACC and where it falls, the biggest losers in this whole deal are the Pac-12 and the AAC. I'll just say that right now, because the ACC is going to want to backfill with any schools that leave, and that's tantalizing for schools that have been sitting there hovering, begging, waiting for that call-up. A USF, a Memphis, a Tulane, maybe a UTSA or Texas State. And those schools now have absolutely no incentive to immediately join up with, say, Pac-12 to add an 8th member, because you want your phone to ring from the ACC, who at any point now the ACC knows they're vulnerable. They can start adding schools tomorrow. There's nothing to stop the ACC from being proactive with this whole deal, bringing in schools knowing they're going to lose X number to other conferences, and that could go all the way to the West Coast. It could go all the way to Washington State and Oregon State. So I'm just telling everybody, the ACC is the big mover today, but I think in the coming weeks you're going to see a lot more movement out of those other leagues. That I'll leave you on that note.
I think the odds. I think the odds of the Pac-12 adding a Texas State or a Sacramento State has just gone up a few more points, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going to get a Tulane or a Memphis or a USF to come in the door anytime.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Great show. Thanks. Appreciate you.
All right, man. You are the greatest, no matter what I say about you.
You too. We have a show tonight at 8 p.m. Everybody tune in. College
Beautiful.
Football Mafia Network.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
We'll see you, Greg.
Yep. Nathan Brown, College Football Mafia. Ryan Willie, do you think I'm off base?
From
Tristan Fives.
Tristan, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Certainly.
I appreciate it. Ryan Willie, Super Chat. Do you think I'm off base thinking that schools could leave starting next year? No, you're not off base. I think now legally and economically they could leave starting July 1st, 2026 if they file the notice of withdrawal on or before August 15th of this year. Now, will they? It's, the reporters all think that all the reporting that I'm reading, it's going to buy the ACC time. It's going to buy them at least a few years. And maybe that's all true. But legally, economically, there can be first party talks here starting soon. Again, I don't know if Tristan can help me with this. I don't know if the phrase prisoner dilemma works here, but everyone's going to be kind of fearful of the other one jumping in first, they're all going to be calling the SEC and the Big Ten. Some of them are going to be calling the Big 12. And it don't matter if they're not going to act 5, 4, 3 years from now. They are going to be calling because they can legally call. Well, they've always been able to legally call, but the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be legally able to pick up the phone and say to a Louisville, say to a North Carolina, say to a Florida State, okay, let's, take your lawyers. We'll meet up in Chicago. We'll meet up in Washington, D.C. We can have talks at the highest levels. But they have not been able to do that. They have not, especially the ACC schools who have had a grant of rights to 2036 for the longest time. Nobody, and I don't care what has been reported falsely in the last few years. All these reports that Florida State and Big Ten have a deal, Clemson and SEC have a deal, North Carolina and Big Ten has a deal. None of that has been true because they can't even have first party talks. For the first time in a long time, these ACC schools are going to be able to send whoever they want. The Big Ten can send anybody they want to a meeting and they can talk. They can open up the books. They can talk about a plan starting a year from now, starting 2 years from now, starting 3 years from now, whatever. They can talk. For the first time in a long time, Florida State can talk at the highest levels to whoever, whenever, about whatever. That is the big, massive story in this big, massive story. Tristan, thanks for your patience. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, thanks for taking
Hold
my
on.
call.
Chris Kenny, those calls have not been made. The athletic directors can call. I'm sorry, Tristan. Greg, those calls have already been made. If the athletic director for a program and outside hasn't made those calls, he or she, okay, they've made the calls, but the conferences cannot have first-party talks with these schools. They can't. They haven't been. That's the story. You cannot. The Big Ten Legal Counsel will not allow the Big Ten to talk to a school that doesn't know when they can get out of the... You're not going to talk to a school that is 14 years out from being able to get their media rights back. The Big Ten won't even talk to USC until the start of 2022. So yeah, the athletic directors can call, but they're not going to be first-party talks where you really hammer it out. It just has not been possible. Go ahead, sir. Tristan, again, I apologize.
No problem, Greg. Well, there's a million things to talk about here. So first of all, one thing that I would like to point out, I can't believe I didn't think of this yesterday, and it may have been, this comment may have been offered up, but you know, when we were looking at the numbers last night and we were thinking that it was 200 million and it goes down to 100 million, one of the key things here is that they have that new payout structure where it's 40% even distribution and then 60% was going to be weighted according to viewership.
Yeah.
And did we actually hear, was that a unanimously agreed upon new agreement within the ACC? Or
I heard there needed to be 12 votes.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if, like, that's what I've been told by one person who I regard as incredibly credible. Like, but, you know, I haven't really read any reports on that, but that's what I've heard.
Okay. Well, this was a comment that I actually read on social media. I think someone posted this in the War Chant, but this is a great observation. If you have these smaller schools that, you know, they're going to miss out on the higher revenue, like Wake Forest and Boston College.
Yes.
The only way they could come out ahead in any of this with the new agreement is if someone actually did leave, right? Because they're going to be able to stick around and get some percentage of those distributions when they exit. So if for somehow, if you end up with a unanimous vote, then that's a clear indication that they know for a fact that schools are going to be leaving, and which I think we all had it figured out anyway. That's what this is all about. It's greasing the skids. But this agreement, I think, is tailored to making it worthwhile for the smaller schools, Greg. They can come out ahead in this. And,
yep.
Yeah, and the grant of rights was never really ironclad. I think we can say that now. I think once you had a state university willing to go to court, get the lawsuit in their state courts where it was going to get a fair shake, there was no way that the grant of rights was going to hold up. I do not believe it, and it hasn't been litigated yet, right? That's the one thing we used to say, well, it's never been litigated. No one really knows how it would go. But every talking head and everyone in the media was saying that it's ironclad. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look ironclad to me now. It looks to me like the ACC caved. That's how it looks to me. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. obviously there was a whole, I think maybe near the end, the ACC's perception of things was starting to match Florida State's and Clemson's, right? On the strength of this particular ACC gore or the media rights agreement. There was a weakness somewhere or in many spots of this, right? I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, now that we have this agreement, and I don't know if it's official, but it will be soon, apparently. Now the speculation begins on who's going where and when they're going.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you that North Carolina probably will be the first one out the door. I'm not sure where they're going to go, Greg. I think there's a good chance they're going to go to the Big Ten. And I know that we've had previous shows where you said that there seemed to be a little bit of a lean towards the SEC. I think the Big Ten is going to be the choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the Big Ten gets the opportunity, they will go for it. Now, remember, the Big Ten did not get the opportunity with Texas and Oklahoma. They called the SEC together. They made that decision internally between those two universities. They called Sankey, and Sankey made sure that Texas and Oklahoma would not put the next call towards the Big Ten. So if North Carolina gives the Big Ten that opportunity, remember, the school calls the conference first. So we shall see.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten, if they can land UNC, I mean, Greg, they're going to have an incredible presence in the Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, they've already got Maryland. If they can get UNC, they'll probably get Virginia as a byproduct of that. They might even pull in Duke along with them. I don't know if they would be willing to go that big in the conference. But, man, boy, just think about that group of schools right there in the Mid-Atlantic. That would be incredible for the Big Ten.
Yeah, it would be.
Of course,
they want them.
Yeah,
they want them.
Yeah. Do you think you take Virginia to get North Carolina?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Don't know if they get the opportunity, but yes. Or I don't know if they'll win the bidding war. I don't know if they'll win the internal politics of North Carolina war. I don't know. But yeah, they want them? Are they number one on their target list? Besides Notre Dame, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think one dynamic that might come into play here is this idea that if North Carolina, if UNC goes to the SEC, NC State doesn't have a home in the P2. I think there's a possibility that if North Carolina goes to the Big Ten, that the SEC will say, okay, well, we'll go ahead and take NC State because, Greg, they do need the new territory. They need a new state. And decision makers within the state of North Carolina might strategize this and say, you know what, this is our best chance to get two state institutions into the P2. And that's why I think there's a good chance that North Carolina goes to the Big Ten. Just a thought.
You could be onto something or on something. Either way.
I might be on something. That's a possibility.
Got it.
And Greg, I'll close with this thought. I think if the SEC had its choice to just wave a magic wand right now and make it happen, I think they would take North Carolina, Virginia, Duke, and Kansas. 3 new states, lots of basketball history, and that would soften the football schedule, make it easier for their football schools to get a better record, really boost the basketball strength of the conference, and fill out the territory of the SEC. I think that's what they would go for if they could do it.
All righty, sir. Thanks for the call, my man.
All right. You take care, Greg.
You got it. Beautiful call, Tristan, once again. Now, I'm going to show you some reporting here. A lot of people are picking up on this where, 165, that's doable. I mean,
Call from
Rick.
Rick, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
You bet.
Thank you. So, a lot of people are saying, look, 165, that means we could be seeing action here pretty soon. And, that's what I've been saying. Who knows what's going to happen? 165 million, that's doable as long as you have somebody on the other side wanting to do the tango with you. Now, this is Ralph Russo from The Athletic. Ralph Russo. Just to be clear, nobody is paying $165 million today or buying their way out of the ACC over the next couple of years because there is nowhere to go now. In 2030, maybe. Okay? And I gotta tell you guys something. Ralph Russo and the chattering class are all together on this. There's nowhere to go. The Big Ten does not have an ex-media rights negotiations for 4 or 5 to 2029. The SEC to 2034. I mean, there's a lot of this chat. There's a consensus there. Florida State and Clemson, look, and again, Seminole fans get upset. Some do. Some have grudgingly given me a little bit of a nod and a wink saying, thank you for telling us the truth. But Florida State and Clemson were told, like, we're not ready for you. It's why we said on June 15th and 24 that Sankey and Petiti went out of the room because Clemson and Florida State were not their number one targets, even though they're incredible brands and they're going to find their way in. That is why when I was asked earlier on the show, what Nathan Brown said, what is the school that would start it first? And my only answer can be North Carolina because remember, if you go ahead and read all these reports, if you go back and read Brett McMurphy's reports, it was North Carolina that would make the conferences act. The Big Ten and the SEC both want them, so maybe if North Carolina can, so when Ralph Russo says no, there's nowhere to go now, no one is paying it, he's probably correct, at least for a couple of years. But my mind circles to North Carolina because they've got some place to go. SEC would take them now. But then you got the Board of Governors situation, North Carolina State situation. And of course, and then you throw in the fact that, like Rocket Rant said earlier, man, oh man, the SEC and the Big Ten, they're sort of already in their media negotiations. They're doing these scheduling. If a Florida State Clemson is added, maybe that will spur the SEC to change their thinking and to bring them on as earlier than later, because it's going to help their negotiations with ESPN to give them more money because the scheduling agreement with the Big Ten and so forth and so on. I'm sorry, Rick, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience. I appreciate it.
No worries. Exactly what did the small schools in the ACC get by agreeing to unequal revenue sharing?
I don't think they got a whole hell of a lot other than they're going to make sure that they're going to probably at the end of all this, 2030, 31, they're going to have more money in their pockets than Washington State and Oregon State. And they got a lot of money, right? But they're going to get...
No, well, I disagree, and here's why.
Got it. Go ahead.
What if they hadn't agreed to it?
That's a great question. I mean, the potentiality of losing a court case in 27, 28, and then they don't get a dime. That's probably the main motivation. Or ESPN stepped in and said to them, during the negotiations for either picking up the option or letting it die, maybe ESPN says, you've got to agree with some sort of deal with the top brands of these schools in your conference, or we're not even going to pick up this option, and you guys are going to be in a lot of trouble in 27. Maybe that was part of it as well.
You are a brilliant man, because that's exactly what happened.
Well, I don't know. I know I'm not brilliant, but maybe I got lucky.
You, no, that's exactly what happened. They got bamboozled by ESPN.
Yeah. And that's yeah, go ahead.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
They'd have made out just as they currently are had they not agreed to it, because they know that nobody's leaving early because they're not wasting that money until 2030 for the buyout.
Yeah.
Plus, where's Florida State and Clemson going? They're not going to go to the Big 12.
Yeah. I mean, I yep. And I think the SEC, and again, when we're talking about North Carolina, they're heavily in this negotiations. ESPN is talking to them constantly. They're in Charlotte for the ACC corporate office. This is why I think, I don't know.
They're evil. They're evil.
Yeah.
Okay, well that was part of the call. Yep. The other part is, Notre Dame. What you're gonna do?
Probably sit tight. They got the new media agreement.
They do.
I just think, again, I think it's North Carolina that is holding the thread, and if they pull on that thread, things are going to loosen. But if they don't, maybe things are going to sit tight.
Yeah,
I don't think North Carolina. I don't think Notre Dame is going to. There's no way they're going to be the first to act. It's just no way.
No, I agree. No, I'm thinking if North Carolina and Notre Dame get a call from the Peacock, after the Peacocks talk to Petiti, things happen.
Yeah.
Thanks for the show.
You got it. I appreciate it. Beautiful call, Rick. Thanks, man. He I think he might be on. I think he might be on it. Maybe ESPN was a large part of this leverage to have these schools sign this deal, and then ESPN would pick up the. I mean, the day that the option was picked up, it was reported by Ross Dellinger and others that, look, it looks like it's not going to be imminent, but it's in a little bit of time here. Florida State and Clemson, they're all going to agree to a deal that Florida State and Clemson are going to go out of the courts. So there really is no doubt that ESPN was part of this leverage. Like, let's get all of this done. We'll pick up the option, which is good news for the bottom half of the schools. They're still going to have a media rights agreement. They're probably going to backfill after the top schools leave. in 29 and 30 or before. They're going to get exit fee money coming to them. Maybe they still have the ACC network. You know, it could very well be that a Boston College and a Wake Forest and a few others are going to end up having a little bit more money, a little bit more exposure, a little bit better setting, a little bit standing on a little bit higher ground than a Washington State and Oregon State after the Pac-12 imploded. And that had to be the goal of some of these ACC schools, right? And if it was, they've achieved their goal. And so did ESPN. So did Florida State and Clemson. Big victories. Big victories for Florida State and Clemson. El Bundy, Florida State and Clemson did all the heavy lifting for North Carolina. Fox would give more to the Big Ten if they added a Florida school. Well, we'll find out, right? We're going to find out. Maybe my answer, now look, we're talking Florida State and Clemson. We're talking North Carolina. Maybe we should spend a little bit of time on talking about Miami. Kerry Gold knows. I've been told that if no spot is available, SEC of the Big Ten, Florida State will go independent and still a spot opens up. Florida State just signed the scheduling deal, though. They're going to get a viewership number. I mean, they're going to get more money here. Can they get even more money going independent? I don't know. Thank you, Kerry Gold knows. But Kerry has said that a couple of times here at PATC, that independence is still on the docket. Ryan Willie, does Notre Dame stay Indy? For now, they do. Yep. Forever, I don't think so. But for now, Notre Dame stays independent. Thank you for your super chat, Ryan Willie. Thank you for your super chat, Kerry Gold knows. Hold on for just 1 second. I am going to do, I'm going to check something here. Just got an email. I got a few things I got to do here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. But we got it, if you're talking about Miami, 165 million, that's a lot of money. But there is no doubt that they're going to call the Big Ten. And I would love to be the fly on the wall to listen to that conversation. Now remember, Miami just became an AAU university. The Big Ten University supported Miami in that AAU effort internally in that private club. Miami has been listed as a Big Ten candidate. Brett McMurphy has listed them. So when people are saying there's no place for Miami to go, if they paid the 165, would Miami pay the 165 now to get $35 million a year from the Big Ten like Washington and Oregon?
From
Steve, Bearcat Steve, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir. Appreciate it.
Couple questions, Greg.
Yeah, I got no answers, but go ahead, sir.
Who does have the answers? We're talking about the top tier teams, and then we talk about the bottom tier teams.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're Louisville, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech?
If I was Louisville, I would call Brett Yormark once a month.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my take on it, and I have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
But if Yormark comes up with this for lack of a better phrase, because everybody uses it, private capital for the Big 12.
Yeah.
And you're looking around the table and you know what cards are being held by who in the ACC. Man, you got to take a long, hard look at what may happen if 2 or 3 teams in the ACC decide to get out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you look down, and nothing against these other universities in the ACC, but then you look down the list and you go, I don't know. Did we really buy 5 years of stability? We don't get to play Notre Dame anymore. You know, Syracuse, Pitt, all those schools can't be happy about not at least getting to play Notre Dame once every 5 or 6 years. You know, that's the unequal revenue thing is, well, I've got my opinion on it because I've watched it being tried by other conferences in the past. It never worked out real well. One other thing, Greg, question for you. How many North Carolina State graduates sat on the North Carolina Board of Governors?
I'm embarrassed to tell you that I used to know that because I counted them. I looked at every one of them and I tried to see who had a connection with what. But there was.
Well, I'm glad to know. Yeah.
Huh?
I'm glad to know your recall is about as good as mine.
I don't know, but there was a lot. I mean, I'm there was a lot of connections. At the time, the chair was a big North Carolina State booster. He's not the chair anymore, but I would say 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 of them had connections with North Carolina State.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought you said in the past, but I wasn't sure, and I'm not so sure. Again, it's no information I have. It's really not an opinion. I'm just not so sure that everyone realizes the power these state governments and the institutions within them can really have over, for lack of a better word, their subsidies. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think this could go somewhere where it could surprise a great deal of people who pay attention to college football. And I'll just leave it at that, Greg.
Yeah. Yep.
Have it.
Big Cat
Virginia's
Steve.
Attorney. Yeah.
Sorsby.
Yeah.
This will be year 2. I think Sorsby versus Dylan Raiola, game 1. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Should be fun. I think Cincinnati lost 2 really good linemen who are going to be drafted in the NFL, offensive linemen. We'll see how that shakes out. I want to see Sorsby be one hell of a lot better than he was in the second half of the season last year. He played well the first half of the season, not so much of in the second half of the season. And I know it comes down to the competition and so forth and this, that, and everything else. But he's got to get more consistent.
Yeah.
It's just a big question mark. The only thing I'm going to say, and pardon my language, but Satterfield knows he's got to coach his ass off this year.
Yeah.
Because it ain't Cincinnati alumni. A lot of people they're just not going to put up with this. You start with Mark D'Antonio all the way up to Fickle, and people got their couple years grace period as their coaching changes made, then things turned around. Well, he better do it this year. They're pouring so much money into that athletic department at Cincinnati right now, Greg.
Yeah.
That, you know, you're going to have as good as resources as anybody. You just are. And one of his big criticisms he's getting right now, Greg, God, I hated to get long-winded on this, but now you got me started.
That's all right, man. That's what I love. That's what I love about this show. Go ahead.
One of the things he's not doing very well, he's not recruiting within that, well, basically Ohio, but then again, within that 100-mile radius of Cincinnati, there's great football played within Cincinnati. I mean, there's some really, really good football players. Cincinnati used to get their share. Ohio State always got their share. But Cincinnati used to get more of their share than teams with proximity to them like Indiana or Purdue or Louisville. Cincinnati would get those kids out of greater Cincinnati. He's not doing that very well right now. And that's a little alarming to a lot of fans who have watched the program for a long time, you know. So we'll just see how everything works out. I just think his seat's a little more than warm right now. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But you can look back at what he took over at Louisville when his first couple years he stepped in there. That was a god awful mess, and he got him back to respectability for a couple 3 years, you know. So the other thing I'll add is Cincinnati's NIL is pretty healthy. They're spending $135 million on a new athletic center. Should be done in 6 months, which is a great recruiting tool. But we just got to see, getting back to Sorsby, we need him to be better than he was.
Yeah.
And he's got the potential to be.
Yeah.
Lost Tyner. He's a very good, one of the most underrated running backs in the Big 12. He's probably going to get drafted.
You still got Pryor though, right?
Got Pryor. Picked up a kid in the portal. Gosh, his name's escaping me now, Greg. So I think we'll be okay there. But again, we'll see. If he doesn't win 7, my God, Greg, they were 4-1 at one time last year. They ended up at 5-7, you know. And if he pulls that this year, he can plan on the last regular season game being his last at Cincinnati. He really can. So anyhow, I'll leave you with that. You get me started on Sorsby and the broadcast, I won't shut up. I won't shut up. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Appreciate the call. Breeze Frey, thank you, Florida State Board of Trustees and the athletic director, Michael Alford. I'm going to show you guys Brett McMurphy's post here. Now, he words it in a way that I want you all to take it in not exactly how he's phrasing it, but let me explain. Brett McMurphy, ACC, Clemson, and Florida State settle litigation. Schools promise to live happily ever after or until the Big Ten or SEC come a-calling. Now, when he says the Big Ten or the SEC come a-calling, he's not saying that they're going to call first, right? But, you know, the schools are going to call them. Who knows? It could happen today, 30 days from now, whatever. I think what he means, like, if the Big Ten and the SEC says, okay, let's talk, let's have first-party talks, again, I think Brett McMurphy, who is the king of realignment, he's telling everybody, look, everybody, everyone, all these reporters are saying, 5 years, gain stability, nobody has a place to go. Brett McMurphy, schools promise to live happily ever after. Everything's fine. Or until the Big Ten and the SEC show interest. Right? I think that's what he means. Showing, unless the Big Ten and the SEC say, well, let's talk. Right? And I don't believe that Brett McMurphy, I have no idea, but I would be absolutely shocked if we don't have movement by 28 at the latest. I don't think this is going to just stay the way. This whole thing of they've got no place to go, I get that. I get it. But now things can be talked about and rearranged and figured out, and you've got the SEC and the Big Ten wheeling and dealing each other with scheduling agreement. You got the SEC going to 9 games, and things can be worked out. My goodness. Big news today. It's happened. The settlement has happened. It's official. First party talks are going to start, even if nothing happens, even if there is no realignment for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. First party talks can happen now. There's going to be steam. There's going to be talks. There's going to be a lot of things going on. I want you to stick with this here at College Football Peek Around the Corner. Please subscribe and have those notifications turned on. We plan to do a live show later today. We'll see what happens. But we had to get this one done because we covered the live stream of the Florida State Board of Trustees. They've approved the settlement. Clemson's Board of Trustees have approved the settlement. ACC Board of Directors, they have approved the settlement. I think in about 30 days it's going to be official. Buckle up, brace for impact. We said it was going to be a crazy offseason, and it has been more crazier, more early than even I thought. So, again, buckle up. We've got a lot more to cover here in college football. We're going to shut this down now because we've been on the air for 2 hours and 17 minutes. We are planning on coming on live later if there's more information coming, and there just might be. I got an email here that I cannot spill out yet, but buckle up, brace for impact. I want to thank everybody who has joined us for this epic show. Everybody with your donations helping us keep the lights on. I appreciate it. Huffer Billy Paul, John Till, Bill G, Mr. Hoosier Tungate, Kerry Gold Nose, Morris Simmons, Daniel Gorby, Expedition Greg, Kenneth Maynard. Don't be shocked if North Carolina and Duke to the SEC are the first dominoes to fall. Holy smokes, Kenneth Maynard. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for that. I appreciate it. Ryan Willie, everybody, thank you for your donations, your comments, your great phone calls. Wow. More to come. Again, please subscribe to our channel and have those notifications turned on. Follow us at Plug Empire on X, because we sometimes give you the heads up that we're starting real soon. Again, please, you all take great care of each other, because I'm going to expect you to be there at the next live show. Peace out. Thank you.